The Seventh Tower by Garth Nix. Book 4, Above the Veil. Chapter 17. The Paral shrieked again and took off, its prey in its huge claws. Unfortunately, Odris had made herself quite solid in order to hold on to Milla, so the huge, leathery flying creature could easily grip her shadow flesh. "Ow!" cried Odris. "Ow! Ow! Ow!" The Paral couldn't really damage her, but its great talons were ripping her body, and it hurt. "Drop me!" shouted Milla. "Drop me now!" They were still above the road, but the Paral could swing away at any time, out into open space. Odris obeyed, but a fraction too late. Milla saw the gap in the road below her, the deep crevice she had jumped across before. She made a frantic grab and just managed to grip onto the little finger of Odris's left hand. The finger stretched and stretched into a long rope of darkness as Milla swung below her spirit shadow. The Paral beat its mighty wings, taking Odris higher. Milla focused on her sunstone, brightening it as fast as she could, and at the same time she screamed, high-pitched and loud. Parals couldn't stand very bright light or very loud high noises. They didn't see or hear like any normal creature. The Paral gave a surprised squawk and tried to let go, but its talons were actually embedded in Odris, and the spirit shadow couldn't make herself more insubstantial without making her finger the same. Milla fell. The spirit shadow's finger got thinner and thinner until it was burning through Milla's gloves, and she had to take one last swing and let go. Immediately, Odris thinned herself, slipping off the Paral's talons like water. But she was already high above Milla. All she could see was a falling light, which was all too soon extinguished. With the absence of light, Odris immediately grew weaker. She fell from the talons, but did not have the strength to fly. Instead, she plummeted straight down, a blot of formless shadow, indistinguishable in the darkness. Milla missed the gap in the road by a few stretches, but the impact was hard. She tried to get up straight away, but the wind had been knocked out of her, so she could only rise to a crouch. She could hear the Paral squawking in the distance, but there was no sign of Odris nearby. She could feel her spirit shadow, though. The connection between them was strong. Milla concentrated on getting her breath and tried to focus on the direction of the feeling. It came in waves, a horrible, wrenching sensation, accompanied by feelings of weakness and nausea. Milla turned in a circle to pin it down. After a few turns, she realized that Odris was farther along the road and down quite a long way. Milla also felt that the spirit shadow wouldn't last much longer without light. Already she was fading, and as her strength faded, so did Milla's. The Icecurl girl forced herself fully upright and started down the road. The smell of the galt, the molten stone used in the road, was strong. She drew it into her nostrils, regretting the loss of her face mask for a moment. Then she moved at a steady lope, much faster than she had climbed up with Tal. She risked a fall going at such speed, but with every passing breath, she felt Odris fading. If she didn't get to her to provide light soon, the spirit shadow would die, and from the feel of it, would take Milla with her. That must not happen before she brought her news to the crones, Milla thought. She must get to the crones. Milla felt another wave of nausea and weakness hit her, and shuddered. It was a familiar feeling, as if the blood were flowing out of her body. Unconsciously, she held her hand to the Merwin horn scar in her middle, as if to staunch the wound there. But it was healed. Grimly, Milla increased her pace, leaping over snow-covered stones and irregular chunks of ice. At the same time, she began to breathe the 10th and final Ravkir pattern, the dead walking. That pattern was the last resort, and few Icecarls had the mastery of it. The dead walking would enable her to keep going, no matter how wounded or weary, till her task was finally done. Then she would die. Lost in the 10th pattern, she did not even feel the falls, the stumbles, and the many small bruises and cuts as she continued to run pell-mell down the road. There was only the breathing and the constant pull of Odris's slow fade to nothing. Odris felt the light before she saw Milla. It brought her back from somewhere where she had no thoughts, no feelings. In one moment she was falling from the Paral, in the next lying spread across the snow. As the sunstone drew nearer, Odris felt her shape returning. Her shadow flesh flowed back to her like a tide from where it had been spread across many stretches. But Milla didn't really stop when she reached Odris. She paused and reached down. Odris grabbed her hand. The spirit shadow hardly had a moment to shout hello before Milla ran on, dragging Odris with her. "Slow down!" shrieked Odris as Milla fell down the far side of a large rock and nearly went over the edge. "You'll hurt yourself!" Milla didn't answer. She kept on running. Odris floated up her arm and twisted her head around to have a look. Milla's eyes were glazed, and there was a strange light in them, reflected from the sunstone burning brightly on her outstretched hand. "I don't like this," whimpered Odris. "What are you doing?" She heard no answer, but in her head came the sudden echo of Milla's thought. The rune ship and the crone mother. The rune ship and the crone mother. They came to a point where the road switched back to head. Instead of running around the hairpin turn, Milla plunged over the side, sliding down 30 or 40 stretches through snow, ice, and stone. "No, no, no!" shouted Odris. She puffed herself up and lifted Milla, so the girl swooped down instead of sliding. But this only encouraged the ice carl. She left the road again and launched herself into space to go straight down the mountain. "Stop!" shrieked Odris as she spread herself out to get the best glide and lift, exerting all her strength against the winds that threatened to dash them back into the mountainside. "Whoa, Milla!" The rune ship and the crone mother.